There you all have it. Run it up and wiggle to another spot. That is none other than K-Tone, Ike and K-Tona. These ninjas don't pray for you. These ninjas pray on you.
How many times have you said that?
Sylvia, speak right into that microphone. I got a lot I want to talk to you about.
Oh, I've got a lot to say.
So, first of all, it's so good to have you here. It's top of the week to you? Or the week? I love okay, everybody. I'm about to get my fill of all things, I don't know, British, UK, London, Commonwealth, Great Britain. Like, there's so much, like, my head is so everywhere with this thing. And last week I got a call, Sylvia, and someone said, Brother Jeff, they were all in a huff. They're like, Brother Jeff, the Queen died. And I was like, Aretha Franklin been dead. And then they were like, no. I said, oh my God, what happened to Queen Latifah? He was like, Queen Elizabeth II.
Indeed.
Has died. And it's a real big deal. I mean, and you're from like London. Are you from London? How do I even say it? Sylvia, where are you from?
I'm from London. I'm from South London, and I would say whoop, whoop, whoop. It is the capital of Black Europe, particularly Brixton, which where many Black people reside or resided. It's now a bit gentrified, but yeah, I've lived there.
Now listen, I love everything you just said because you have already educated me. Like South London, the heart of Blackness in Europe or around the world?
I would say in Europe. I mean, I would always describe Brixton in particular as the Harlem of Europe, of the UK, without a doubt. There's the history of Brixton is a bit like the history of Notting Hill. That was a very Black area that a lot of people from the Commonwealth in the 40s through to the late 60s came to settle. I mean, we've got a whole story. I mean, you know what? I don't know where to begin.
Well, first, what is the Commonwealth?
Oh,
because we're doing like all things Britain, London, UK, all that for dummies. Like Well, you've been here and you realize that they don't teach a lot of even our own history, let alone anyone else's. And so we're kind of like, all we heard was London Bridge is falling down. And I don't know if that's like disparaging or if you all grew up singing that stuff or whatever.
It's not disparaging at all. Don't forget, what colonizers were really good at was divide and rule. And so no wonder African Americans don't know much about the Caribbean or the people in Africa or Black people.
I'm talking about Americans in general. Generally, don't know anything about anything outside of the U.S.
I suppose for me, there's something about the divide and rule about Black people. That's why I said African Americans, because we all come from Africa,
right?
But we've been dispersed globally. So we don't know what is happening to Black people in Africa, to our brothers and sisters. Let's be very clear about that, because they have been dispersed across the world. And so for me, the Queen dying, it's been an opportunity for me to talk about this. It's a topic that has opened up about colonialism, about the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was born out of colonization. And at the moment, there are 54 Commonwealth countries. And I would say it is a club, but it's a club that's been born out of oppression. And lots of countries are part of it, and they're countries that were part of the British Empire. My father's from Ghana, my mum is from Barbados.
And you know that specifically? Because you know, I know you got that look, you know, like, of course I know that. But there are a lot of Blacks in the U.S., they just know they're from Africa, but they're not very specific as it relates to, you know, their ancestry, unless they do something like Ancestry.com, which says, well, this is where your ancestors were roaming. But you specifically have a direct connection and know, you know what, Ghana, Barbados.
Oh, so you're actually asking me, do I really know where I'm from?
Well, in a way, in terms of like beyond Ancestry.com.
Oh, amazing. You know what? That's an interesting topic, because that's something that when I came here, I realized a lot of African Americans didn't have a touch point that they could go to a certain place and know there's where they're from. My birth name is Sylvia Ama Anochura Apoku. My father is from Ghana. He's an Ashanti, and there's where my father's side is from. So I know exactly there's where he's from, because he came from Ghana to England as part of the Windrush generation, which I can talk to you a bit more about, in 1964. My mum came from Barbados in 1960. After the war, in the European War, World War II, the UK was decimated and a lot of their people were killed. And so they decided they were going to we'll remember to invite a lot of people from the colonies to come and rebuild the country. My mum came over as a nurse, and many black women came over as nurses, and it's called the Windrush generation because Windrush is a name of a ship that came from Jamaica. I think it's in 1948, and that is the first wave of that intake of immigration from colonies.
You know, Sylvia Lamb, she's a treasure. She's been all over the news. Like, I don't know. It seems like everybody's saying we need somebody knows something about London. I said to myself, I know Sylvia. And now I'm looking, it's like everybody's like, can you tell us something about London and the Queen? And we'll get into that. But before you do, would you hit him with the trigger alert? I've got some more questions because you've already given a clinic, and don't worry about this fly. This fly's been hanging around.
Okay,
but
I'm showing my age. I've got to put on my glasses.
There we go.
It says in capital letters, trigger alert. This is a show that triggers people because you've entered a free think zone. If you're not willing to be exposed to other points of view, tune out now and don't read the comments. You have been warned. You've been warned.
Okay, so Britain. Okay, when I use the term Britain, is that just a general term, or Great Britain? Does it even become broader, or, how do we geographically, how do we just use the term?
So you would say the Queen of the United Kingdom, as opposed to the Queen of England. You immediately think of Queen of England as the Queen of the United Kingdom, which is England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And so that.
But don't say that to Ireland, people.
Northern Ireland is
Northern.
Is a British territory, and again, that is because of the British Empire and imperialism. So they took part of Ireland, and so that's why you had all the problems with the IRA and that conflict during that time.
So when we think about what you just talked about in terms of your parents and the reason they came to London as a part of rebuilding that which was destroyed in terms of labor, it wasn't forced labor because the United Kingdom had outlawed chattel slavery, like on their land, but not in their colonies per se. And so your parents arrived in London more as immigrants as opposed to anything attached to chattel slavery.
They immigrated. Were they immigrants? I think you can look at that as, it's a strange term because I think there's a difference in that. They were British subjects. They had British passports. They just happened to be living in different parts of the world, but those countries were British ruled.
So when I think about, and I opened up in terms of this ideal of royalty, like here in the U.S., you see I attach our royalty is usually around celebrity. You know what I mean? It's more like the Queen. It's like, you must be talking about the Queen of Soul. You're talking about the Queen, no, Queen Latifah. Like, the Queen is dead, and it's like, no, there's really something about this royal tradition. Like, what is it, and what is it that we miss or don't get about it here in the U.S.?
It's hereditary royalty. First of all, royalty is a state of mind.
Not there. No, I've heard folks say, no, I don't associate with my uppers. And I mean, we're going to get into that because the U.S. says they don't do class, but they really do. They just do it in a different way. They say we're just like an egalitarian society and everyone has an opportunity to be president or rise as high as they want in the society. But that's not necessarily the case in a class system. You know what I mean? And maybe some of that is broken down. I don't know how much it is in terms of relevance today, but the royal family and royalty really means something.
Yes.
From the UK point of view.
Without a doubt, because the British system is constitutional monarchy. And so it is something that people have decided that's how they want their country to run. Many years ago, going way back now, I'm thinking about my history lessons. They did get rid of the royal family, and they were without the royal family for many years, and then they decided to bring it back. This is long time ago. And so they've decided that even though the royal family doesn't have any real power, all the power is held in Parliament. In the House of Commons, there's where the legislation process goes, and it goes from the House of Commons to the House of Lords. So you've got your lower house, your upper house, and then, but where the process is on the legislation is that it is actually signed off by the Queen, with the King now. And so that is just really a point of the end of the process, but they can't renege on that. They cannot say it is not a law. They don't have any power.
It's symbolic.
It's totally symbolic.
So it's not, they have no veto power. They just like whatever the House of Commons and the House of Lords comes up with, that's where it ends. And then symbolically, the Queen, now the King Charles, signs off on it.
Yeah. So, for example, at the beginning, when the opening Parliament, you'll have, it's called the Queen's Speech. Now it'll be called the King's Speech. It's actually, she's not actually, or he's not actually writing any of that. That's written by the government. And so that's the words of what the government, what their plans are, their manifesto, and what they're going to do for that year. So even though it's coming out of her mouth, his mouth, that's not anything to do with anything that they've written. So it's totally symbolic, as you say.
So the UK, like citizenry, everyone has something or someone they look up to in every society. And so as it relates to the UK, what is it that young people or the society kind of look up to? Like, how does it work? Because in the US, we don't generally look up to anybody. We're always ready to cuss somebody out anyway.
I think there's definitely deference to the royal family. But it depends on your opinion. There's people that recently, over the past weekend, there's the Republicans and people that want it to be a republic, and there's rumblings, and there's people talking more about it. You can see people that are walking on the street saying, "Not my king," and things like that. So you do have a difference of opinion. Not everybody.
And that's politically. That's kind of like a political. It's kind of like Republicans, Democrat. They have their own differences.
It's more to do with the fact that immediately we have King Charles. That he hasn't been voted in. It's by birth. And
right.
Some people don't like that. And people have a difference of opinion. But that's the way it is. It's not like, for example, the president, where the president is voted in that way. It's not like that in the UK as far as the monarchy is concerned. The Queen is dead. Long live the King.
But okay, so politically, the power at some point transferred into like this constitutional monarchy, right? And the royal family is the royal family. Like, there's no taking away from that, regardless of what you think politically. That's my mom, that's my dad, that's my lineage, and it's hereditary. So no matter how much you don't like it, it's a reality. That's
what it is. Because you can say it's not my king. Yes, you can have a difference of opinion, but it is your king, I'm afraid, and that's what it is. And we talk about free speech. That's what and that's what people can believe. But for me, as a black person, born in the UK of immigrant parentage, I'm conflicted because I grew up all my life having the Queen as a backdrop and the tapestry of my life, all my life. And so she's died now. And so I do feel a sense of loss because there is a change. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, I understand that the Queen, she is a person on a humanity level. I understand that. But also she is the head of state. She's head of institutions. And so that is an issue. For me. And so you've got her as the head of the Commonwealth. And I said the Commonwealth was born out of colonization, of slavery, of imperialism, of British rule, So the Queen, years ago, she learned that she'd become the Queen in Kenya. And what is difficult about that is that the Kenyans were killed in their thousands wanting not to be ruled by the British, fighting for their independence. And so oftentimes that is glossed over. There is a really ugly side of the Commonwealth.
When you think about when the news hit you, what went through you? What was your state of mind? And when you talk to your friends on, like we say, on the other side of the pond, You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you all are having the real conversations. Like there's a prip and proper way there's supposed to be having the conversations. But when you talk to your friends and just yourself, when you heard that, like, I know there was you were conflicted, but how did you, what was your state of mind? What is your state of mind?
You know, I woke up in the morning and I was listening to a debate going on in the Houses of Parliament, like I do, because I'm a bit of a political nerd. And then there was a point where someone said a piece of paper was passed in Parliament to the Prime Minister and one to the Leader of the Opposition. As soon as I heard that, I knew there was a problem. I just thought, this is to do with the Queen. I bet something's happened.
Because you could just see the process of what was taking place, and something was out of order.
Yes, then they ran out of the chambers, and so and then watching the story, and then it came out that she was ill, and the Buckingham Palace doesn't put out notices like that just willy-nilly. There has to be an issue. And so I was just waiting. And then they announced that she died. And I think with any kind of death, even if someone has been terminally ill for a long time, it is a difference when they die. And so it is a shock. You know, she's 96, you're expecting all of this, but it was just a huge shock. It's like, what happens now? And it's very interesting to see how the constitutional protocols have just come into action. They're all emotions, and so because you know everything is going to change. You no longer the money. Is not going to have the Queen's head on it anymore. The coins aren't going to have the Queen's head on it anymore. The stamps aren't going to have the Queen's head on it anymore. And so all of that is just going to be weird and change. You're going to say, you know, God save the King. So what rolls off the tongue is God save the Queen. And King Charles III. You look at him and you think, no, he's the Prince. And so there's an adjustment that needs to be made. And I think that happens with any grieving process, with any death of somebody that you felt was close to you. And I think that's what it is, whether I like it or not, however conflicted I am, that has hit me in that way. At one point I thought about her dying. I was thinking, am I going to go back to the UK? And I'm like, you know, I'm not a monarchist, but I'm thinking like that. And so whether it's indoctrination or whatever it is, there's something that has hit me in a way that maybe I didn't expect it to, you know, because growing up, I said, you know, went all the Jubilees, you know, went to Trooping of the Colour, been to Buckingham Palace, and it's just been the backdrop of my life. And so this is very different. When
you think about it, and you made an interesting point. Now all the money changes. Like here, the money's never going to change. I mean, you might get an introduction of a new president on a particular dollar or a coin or whatever, but you're saying with the death of the Queen, there's going to be a lot of printing. There's going to be a lot of decirculating of what was there. Like, we got to pull this money out of the economy. We got to exchange. And a lot of what was now is going to be maybe collector's items.
It will be after all. I mean, it would be interesting to see how long that the money just comes out of use. But obviously, it'll be in use for forever. But I would like to know, when are they going to start printing new £10 notes and £20 notes and all those things that are going to, on that day-to-day basis, how things are really going to change. You're going to notice that change. Next year, I imagine there's going to be the coronation of the King, and I feel a certain level of compulsion to go back to the UK to see that. You know, when you talk about you know, people that I'm speaking to, I have a group of friends here from the UK, and we had to get together on Friday, and it was very emotional. We were watching the Queen, watching the King speak for the first time, and it was just, there's hairs on the back of your neck just go up, and you're feeling very sad. And now we're discussing how we're going to mark the funeral, how we're going to get together. And I feel, yes, that's what I would like to do. That I would like to have some kind of emotional support, even though, you know, I don't feel as if I'm breaking down or whatever, but I know it's a thing, and there's something about this is a moment in history. And there's another reason why I thought to myself, I'm not actually going to go back to the UK. I feel as if my job and my work is here right now, having these conversations, you know, and talking about the other side of of the Queen's death, talking about the Commonwealth, talking about and giving voice to voices that are very rarely heard. You know, you've got Antigua and Barbuda. In the next 3 years, they're going to have a referendum to get rid of the Queen as the head of state.
Wow.
And Jamaica in the same way. And lots of Caribbean islands still have the Queen as the head of state. They may have they may be independent, and they have a prime minister, but she still is the person who's the head of state. Barbados in November, just gone, got rid of the Queen as the head of state, and now they have a president and a prime minister like they do in France. But what you'll find is the countries like New Zealand and Australia, they're not thinking about doing that. And I think, I wonder why that is.
Isn't that an interesting question? Because, like, thinking of colonization and decolonization, what does it say to various countries that gain their independence through whatever means, but hold on to, like, the Queen as head of their state? Like, is that like kind of like, well, we're still together though? There's sentimental thing about, we can't let you just really go. So please don't just leave, but just kind of leave us alone.
But you'll find, you know, the countries in the Caribbean, the majority of the people there are black. And they are the people that were oppressed. They fought for their independence. They fought for their freedom. And so the times have gone by where, you know, the Queen would visit on her tour and they would feel really great and British in that way. And they'll come out and, you know, and say, you know, to support her in that way. I think those times have gone. Times have moved on. However, you know, the Maoris and the Aborigines in Australia and New Zealand, they don't have a voice. You don't hear what they're saying because they're not in power. And so I'm sure if you were to ask them, would you like to become independent, have the, you know, would you still like the Queen to be head of state? I think they'll have a different perspective than the people that are actually governing their country that was taken over.
There's this saying, and we've all heard it, that the sun never set on the British Empire at one point. Like, I've constantly asked myself, and you being a part, you know, closely aligned, you know what I mean? Like, you're like you're right in the center of it. Have you ever asked yourself and reconciled, how did that become a reality? Like, what is it that these British had that allowed them to dominate the known world in such a way that they were just empowered from this very small place? How?
That's a really good question. What was it about that? Is it to do with how they viewed people? Was it just to do with money? It's a question I ask myself a lot, but how were they able to rule so many of these countries and overtake them? Maybe they had no souls at that point. I don't know, because India was part of the British Empire, and so many different countries. How they Ghana, as I say, it was called the Gold Coast. And
Gold Coast, Ivory Coast. I mean, every mineral is like, when you look at the British Empire, you look at all of that wealth is extracted from around the world. You know what I mean? Most people wouldn't have to visit a particular country to see the artifacts. They should just go visit the British Museum.
Oh, the British Museum.
Have you been there?
Oh, I have. Again,
I want to go. I want to go.
You have to go. Again, I'm so conflicted.
I
walk in and I see these artifacts and they are amazing. And so they've got all the different sections, got the Africa section, got the Egypt section, and you can't go in there without thinking, you have pillaged these countries. But it is amazing to see them, you know. And so I go to a place, you know, where it's got Ghana. And my father quite clearly told me they stole that. They stole the golden stool from Ghana. It's like my middle name is Anochua, and he was a Ghanaian leader, and he fought the British, and his name was Anochi, and Anochua is the Ghanaian, and the Ghanaian female version of Anochi, and so it's those kind of things that you it's hard to get your head around. It's great to be able to go in to see those things because the museum's free to go to.
Is it free for everyone or just free for citizens?
Free for everyone. And it
Really?
is it's one of the best museums in the world.
It's got to be, because it has everybody's stuff.
I know.
Can you imagine being from somewhere and say, well, let's travel somewhere to see our stuff?
It's amazing because
it's amazing.
The Ashanti tribe was one of the big tribes that fought the British without, however, the British had the guns, and then they ruled that country and took their cocoa, took their sugar, took their gold and all their minerals. And I always say that black people are very forgiving people.
Incredibly. Let me just ask. So the Queen, in her ascent to the head of the UK, how did it happen? Because I understand she was like, how old? 15, 21, 25, or whatever, 25 years old.
Rising 26, yeah.
And so her father, like, how did
George.
how did that all happen? Did King George just like old age, or just what happened?
No, he was ill, and I think he died. He was in his 50s, and they weren't because she was not going to be in line to the throne. It was because you hear about the abdication. So George was the brother.
And somebody fell in love.
Yeah, somebody fell in love with Mrs. Simpson. And
Look, before you go further, Sylvia, is love that strong that you're like, man, I'm about to give up all of this just for you? Like,
who doesn't want that love? And it does exist.
It does, clearly.
It does exist. If you love is such an amazing emotion, and it can make you do things that you would never think that you would do. But it made him do that. So anyway, so his brother became king in lieu of him. And so when she was born growing up, she didn't realize that she was going to be queen. And then and he died early. She was on a royal tour with her husband. And then she found out that her father had died. And she had become queen, and she came back.
What was it like growing up in Brixton?
Growing up in Brixton.
Like, what was it like as a black girl growing up in Brixton?
South London. I grew up in Croydon, which is like 6 miles south of Brixton, but I did live in Brixton. Brixton, at that time, it was a rather edgy place. I was there during riots. I was there during bombings.
I don't know. I wonder if it's like the British are the masters of the understatement. It's like, it's a little edgy. It's like, there's a bombing over there. It's like, there's Brian. Don't go over there. Why? It's a little edgy.
But maybe like, maybe I'm just understating.
It's a little edgy. It's like, no, it's like.
I lived there for like 6 years when I was first married, actually, and then I remember there was one. There was a riot, and I remember coming out of my house, and just the place was just totally decimated, and pushing my pram with my 2-year-old son was I was thinking, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to live here. And also I remember there was I don't know if you've ever heard of the nail bombings that were happening in London. And what I found interesting at the time, I remember I was in a shop, all of a sudden I heard this massive bang, and then see people just running, and I was just buying some shoes for my son, and he was about 3 or so, and everybody's running, and my husband at the time said, that doesn't sound like a gun, because he was in the army. He said, that sounds like a bomb. And I'm thinking, well, bomb. And then what was really interesting is I was working for the BBC at the time. I remember ringing it in and saying, I'm here, this is what's happening. And I immediately knew that it was a racist attack. But on the news, they're saying, we don't know what's happened. We think it's the IRA. And I'm thinking,
IRA ain't over here.
They're not coming to Brixton. They're not coming to Brixton. They're going uptown, and they're not going to be bombing oppressed people. And that's when I realized that my reality is different from other people's reality. Every black person knew it was a racist bombing, and they only realized they were targeting minorities is when they bombed Brick Lane, which is a South Asian part of London, and then they went to another part of London, which is LGBTQIA place as well. And then they thought, okay. And it's like, I could have told you that a long time ago.
Have you heard this comment? Because I have. I don't associate with my uppers. Have you heard something like that? And when there's a sister, she lived in London, and she said that there's like this class system to the point where there's certain that they just don't associate with certain classes. The level of classism is like, and you could see it in neighborhoods, you could see it in all these different things, but everyone has a place.
Everybody has a place.
I don't know, but that's your alarm.
That's
going
my
off.
alarm. Yeah, I know. I should have turned it. I didn't realize.
No, that's our. Does it stop or does it good? Let's see how long it rings.
Okay,
Let's see.
I can get up. Gosh,
No, don't get up. No, let's.
Okay.
I love that.
Oh, gosh, uppers. Maybe some people believe that, but I think it depends on what the kind of person that you are.
Would King Charles sit here with us?
Pardon?
Would King Charles sit here with us?
I think you like the idea of doing that, you know.
But not every day. It's kind of like.
Yeah, no, I think people. There's something about knowing your place, but I've never really understood knowing my place.
That's the point. Your place. That's a big deal.
It is. It's about about staying in your lane, and I've never been brought up as someone who stays in their lane. My father was an Ashanti proud man from Ghana. He had a sense of self. He's in lineage of chiefdom there. He brought myself and my sister up as being princesses and queens.
Well, I'll tell you all, we're going to go ahead and take a pause real quick, and I'm going to tell you, go to brotherjeff.com, make a donation of any amount while the queen goes and turns off the alarm. The queen's alarm is ringing. Shout out to all of our patrons who make this possible, and those who go to brotherjeff.com, make donations of any amount. And there's the great Leanne Wheeler's favorite option is Cash App, $JEFFFARD. Want to thank all of you who make this platform available, such as Baba, the Elder, Lee Hawkins, and others. We appreciate you so much. And I'm going to just go back and we're going to continue our conversation. I am talking with none other than Sylvia Lamb, and she is incredible. She's given a clinic. She's fixing her like we're fixing her. She's the consummate professional. Like, she's a PR guru also. Look her up, Sylvia Lamb. She does PR. Can you see us over there? Why don't you bring it closer? Set it on this table, maybe. I don't know. We're figuring this out. We're working this out. We're having a great time and a wonderful conversation. Here's what I want to do. Yeah, just sit it yeah. There we go. There us two are. Let me move this out of your way. Anyway, let's
Sorry about that.
No. When the time comes, the time comes. Let's ask. And Jesse Pear says, when were you with the BBC, and what was that like? Because the BBC seems so official. It's something about the BBC, like British Broadcasting Corporation. What were you doing? How'd you get involved with the BBC?
Oh, I love this story about the BBC, because growing up, do you think I ever thought I would be working for the BBC?
Nope.
The school I went to was a regular public school, didn't give you any kind of aspirations that you're going to be working for the media at all. And so I actually lived in Warsaw in Poland. In my early 20s, just after the Berlin Wall came down and it was the end of the Soviet Union. And I just knew that the opportunities that were going to be afforded to me in England were going to be too difficult. So I thought I need to sidestep. And so going to Poland, living in Warsaw, I had opportunities, as I said, would not have been afforded to me living in London. And so I, strangely enough, started working for a state deregulated radio station. Somebody asked me, who was starting a hip hop show, could I come on and do a spot on their show each week as a British person? And I said, yes, of course, why not? And I did that for about a year, and I lived in Warsaw for 2 years. And then I came back to England, and I remember looking in the newspaper and I saw this little ad said, the BBC are putting on a radio production course for African Caribbean people that want to learn radio production.
I'm working your video, like I'm working your blocking.
Oh, bless you.
we'll figure it out. So you're in Poland.
Okay, you're going back to Poland.
No. Listen, because this is like the passing of the Queen is a very big deal. Because I was in South Africa when Mandela passed away. Like, wow. I was actually there. I was in South Africa when he was released from the body and when he was released from prison. So this whole thing around Mandela, I was actually there the morning of his passing and was there throughout everything, and saw how the world responded, and leaders coming in and multiple celebrations, and just from the ground up, the Africans, it wasn't like, they was partying. Like the leaving of the joining of the ancestors was a celebration. And so just the whole spirit of what was taking place was electric. And I can only imagine what's happening right now in the United Kingdom. Folks are going to be traveling from everywhere to be there.
Yeah, definitely. I was. That's another reason. It was like, if I was in the UK now, I feel as if I'd be compelled to go to Buckingham Palace to see her lying in state. And then I'm just hearing there's a 20-hour wait. And I'm thinking, I don't do any kind of...
Now, no, let's just put that in perspective. A 20-hour wait just to get to the front of the casket.
Sounds, 20 hours sounds like camping to me, and that's something I don't do. But yeah, in order to get, they're saying that's what it's going to be like. There's going to be 5 miles of queues, people waiting in line, that's going to be leading to over the bridge. At some point, they're just going to have to shut that down because the amount of people. They're saying for the Queen Mother, there was like 200,000 people that were saw her lying in state. They're saying they're imagining there's going to be 3 million people wanting to come to Buckingham Palace.
Well, I'm thinking, and as I'm talking to you,
actually, it's Westminster Abbey. Actually, I think she's going.
What's the difference between Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace?
Buckingham Palace is where the Queen, her official home. Westminster Abbey is a church.
Okay. So where's the one with the soldiers with the big tall hats?
Oh, that's
and they never make, like, folks be they try to do stuff and they're like very stoic.
Oh, that's Buckingham Palace. That's Buckingham Palace that they. But there's also outside Downing Street. They're outside there as well. You can see they don't do it. They're on horses as well.
Sylvia, I got to ask you, because you're going to probably have to do this. You do incredible PR. You do so much in community. You've got to go home and cover this funeral.
Oh.
No, you got to get the camera. You got to get the mic. And you got to cover it from not this level, the level of, you'll have an interesting eye. You've got to go and do the story.
I would, you know what? Hold on to next year, because it would be the coronation.
The coronation is the big deal.
For me, it's about making a choice. I'm not going back for both. So if I have to choose, I think it'll be the coronation. I think I'll be more amazed that it's the pageantry, it's the pomp and circumstance and ceremony. I think there will be a lot of that, obviously, for the funeral. But I think if I'm going to go back at any time, it will be for the coronation.
What do you think about this term, prim and proper?
Prim and proper.
Prim and proper. What is prim and proper?
You're saying it the way exactly how it's meant to be said, and that's exactly what it is. It's just being correct, doing the right thing, being dressed particularly well, and being appropriate in your behavior.
And I think that we used to have that in our community more. Like, I'm not from maybe a British standpoint, but there were certain things you did and certain things that you didn't do. In terms of even your interaction with elders, how you interact with children, and even how you make sure that there's an environment where children are always safe, all of these different roles. I think that I'm experiencing some loss of that in our community.
Maybe. I think, again, it's a state of mind. It depends on how you want to present yourself and what your how outward facing you are, and also it depends on where you are. Living in Colorado, in Denver, everybody's far more casual. Americans are far more casual as a nation. I don't think the Brits would be perceived, and I would say in comparison, a bit more prim and proper.
Are they more friendly? Or is friendly a different way of being friendly?
Friendly. When I'm here, you're walking on the street and people say, but these I'm from London, so it's much more cold. So.
Oh, that's why.
In the sense of how people behave. If someone said to me hello in the street, I'll be thinking they're either not mentally well or they're weird. One or the other. Whereas here, people say, oh, good morning. I'm thinking, wow, that's I'm not used to that. So I think there's a different. But it's a big city. I think it's the same as if you're in Paris or New York or something like that. I'm a big city girl, and so being here in Denver is different, and I like it.
What about? And we talked a little bit about it from a maybe not as a knowledgeable standpoint, but what about the black lady that got into the royal family?
Oh, you mean Queen Charlotte?
Yes. How was that? Guess who's coming to dinner moment? Like, I don't know much about the royal family, but this is the best story for me ever. It's like, Mama, I'd like to introduce you. What? Like,
I know. I think that's interesting. They're still saying that there's a bit of a myth around that. They say they've never actually said yes, there was this black woman, but black people saying, well, she looks like a black woman. She's got kind of black features, So we're gonna own her. We're gonna say that she's, it's all about Bridgerton, isn't it? So yeah, is it true? I don't know. I like to think it is.
What about Prince Diana? Did they assassinate her?
Princess Diana. Some people believe that. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so because it was really interesting. I remember, again, it's like, do you remember where you were at certain times? And for me, where I was, I remember when Princess Diana died, I was, and I like to say this, I was a party in Brixton of black journalists from the BBC, and we were just partying, and the TV was on in the background, and then everybody turned and just saw it. And so do I believe? Yeah, gosh, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Well,
I'm a journalist.
One thing I do like about the UK or the British or the UK journalism is this thing called tabloids.
Tabloids, okay.
That tabloid journalism, like, don't they just come out with some of the best stories? And like, there's somebody that's always right. I don't know if it's true or not, but they've got their own spin on a lot of different things. Those tabloids, they tell the story of the royal family all the time.
Oh, well, it's trash, isn't it? It is. It's trashy, we call them red tops as well.
Oh, red tops?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got the Mirror, which is a red top, which is more kind of left-leaning. The Sun is more right-centre, and then the Daily Mail is way off the charts as far as right-wing leaning goes. But so I mean, those kind of papers, do I read them? No, I don't. But I tend to, if I was to read any paper, it would be The Guardian. Call me woke if you like. I don't mind. I'm happy to be called woke. But yeah, so that is that's a broadsheet.
What happened? One thing. Well, where's Lennox Lewis from?
Oh, he's from London, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think his family are from, again, they'll be from Barbados. So I think it's quite safe to assume, in all cases, it's quite safe to assume, if you're a black person, if you see a black person in England, the chances are their heritage, their part, maybe first generation, their parents have come from the Caribbean or former colonies. They can usually trace things back. And so, for example, Barbados, I was there this summer and in over Christmas, and there is a part of Barbados where my family live. There's a street called Greenwich, and that's my mum's maiden name. So my aunts, uncles, cousins live all along there. My mum came to England and she was a nurse. She built a house in Barbados. And so there's those links. So people are still going back to where they came from and not to lose that connection. So I would definitely feel as if, I have strong Bajan links and heritage, and Ghanaian as well.
What about when you think about London and you think about what's known around the world musically or culturally, etc.? I know Floetry. You heard of Floetry?
Yes, no, Floetry.
Floetry, Lennox Lewis, the Beatles.
The Beatles, yeah.
Of course, the Beatles.
Okay.
What else?
Soul to Soul.
Soul to Soul, Back to Life.
Yeah, at the very, But I think there's one thing I would say about Britain and its multiculturalism, and I think that's something that I think I miss, because they talk about New York and different places in the US as a melting pot. It isn't compared to what it is in London. London, everybody, it's smaller. You're living close to one another, and so you don't really have areas so much that is totally dominated by a particular culture or ethnic group. You would, even Brixton, there's loads of black people there, but...
And everybody, excuse the fly. The fly just get going around, but we're enjoying the fly.
But, it's the percentage. It's not like, where did I go recently? It was to New Orleans, and it was just such a surprise to see everybody was black going to a restaurant. You don't see that in England. You might see quite a few black people, but you're not going to see majority. It's not going to be like that.
But what about the black part of town?
That would be Brixton.
And if you go there...
You can get your black food. You can get your Caribbean food, your sweet potato, your yam and banana, and things that are very Caribbean. Your curry goats. Can
we just go up into Brixton, or is it kind of one of those areas where you better know somebody before you go up into Brixton?
No, you can go there, because I said part of it's been quite gentrified.
Oh, how does that happen?
Because it is close to an underground station, and like any place, I'm sure many times you've spoken about gentrification on this show. I've heard you. It's the same the world over. And that's what it is like in Brixton and other parts, like Notting Hill. You know, when you think of Notting Hill, you think of the film Notting Hill, and you think of it's very, very rich place. But before, there's where all the black people came to stay when they came from the colonies, when they were settling down. And then gentrification just slowly just pushed them out. And so that's just what happens. But as far as music is concerned, I love music. And when I worked at the BBC, I did speech programs, I did music programs. And so... And I think there's something about black British music that is a real melting pot. So you've got reggae, you've got Asian music, as in South Asian music, Bhangra. You've got rock, you've got soul music, and it's all mixed up together. So if you go to a nightclub or whatever, you're not just hearing soul and hip hop. You're starting hearing soul, hip hop. You're hearing reggae, old time reggae, new time reggae.
Wow.
You're hearing garage. You're hearing house. It's soulful house. You're hearing so many different kinds of music. And so, I think that's what I miss.
What do you think in terms of when you hear me speak? Do you hear me with an accent?
Of course you've got an accent, so I've got an accent.
But I mean, it's weird because when I first met you right there, as soon as you boom, I'm like, you're from New York, aren't you? No, I'm just saying that accent. It's so like, it's powerful. The language, the speech. However, the spirit constantly brings people together. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what language we speak or what accents we speak to. There's something that we all hold in common, particularly in the diaspora. That's like, something is powerful about black folks.
Brother Jeff, you are my brother.
Period.
And you know what it is? I think that on one level we are joined together by the colors of our skins, but we're also joined together because we have a joint, unfortunately, understanding of racism. We understand what that looks like. We understand what that feels like. And especially if you've grown up as a minority, and even globally as well, you know, you've got economic racism. You've got all different things that, you know, you understand where each other are coming from, because that's something that joins us together, unfortunately.
Well, I could tell you, what do you think in terms of the King, King Charles? What direction do you think he will take the country in, or even if he's symbolic or whatever, what do you think the impact would be of King Charles? I might have said George. King Charles.
You said King Charles. Well, I don't think, because he doesn't really have any real power in that way. I mean, his job is just to get people to like him. That's the first thing he needs to do.
Is he unlikable? Because there's this meme going on. He's like, did you see the meme where I got to show you this meme where they're just showing him, you know, he's signing something. I think his first official act, he's signing it. And he's like to the servants, like,
oh, did you see that? I know. His face. I was just thinking, that's not how you win friends. However, when he was outside and he was meeting and greeting his subjects and his citizens, he was, they were saying, oh, we love you, you know, God save the king. And you could see that he's really trying hard and showing a level of humility. And when someone shows they're prepared to be humble, you've got to give them a break, you know. So I think that's his first order of duty.
Is to have folks kind of start liking him?
Yeah, because he's been a hateful figure for a long time.
What do you mean?
What an example? Princess Diana.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole piece. That was his wife.
That's it, exactly. And so, and also, the new Queen consort, you know, they have to try and, because there's some people that some people can bear grudges, man. They can hold malice. And so, you know, all they think about is Princess. It should have been Princess Diana. She should have been by his side. But really, no, you know, at some point you have to move on, and you know, love will set you free, and in that way. So
what are your thoughts in terms of the UK's influence in terms of international power, wealth? You know, I know that having colonies became expensive in light of also the, you know, insurgencies and all of this stuff, and, you know, the resistance that was coming together. But when you look at the world from a geopolitical standpoint, where does the UK fit in right now?
Oh, now you're getting me started. I mean, gosh, you know,
because you love those politics, like me.
Oh, it's Brexit. They are definitely on the back foot. They've decided to cut ties with their closest economic friends, the Europeans. And so I'm sure they must be feeling quite desperate, because they're talking about having to have new trade treaties with different countries that are so far away from them. And so, they are, oh gosh, there's something about, their inflation is so high, and they're finding it really difficult because they are on the back foot as far as the rest of the world is concerned. And so, yes, I think they have got a lot to do in order to bring themselves up economically.
What about you talked about the House of Commons, the House of Lords. I enjoy watching your government at work.
It's cool, isn't it?
It's like, I'm just like, the one stands up, hold up, and they're like, it's like a soccer game or something. I don't know. I wish the U.S. would do more of that.
Why is it that you
I don't know.
that?
It's like, I don't know. You got to see if your legislator can get in there and chop it up for real.
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, I think it can get really heated, but I just think it's like people are saying what they need to say, and that's the government and governance that I'm used to seeing. And so, when you're watching the Prime Minister's question time, you've got these softball questions that come, and yes, we've done these great things, and it's a bit of theatre, and sometimes there's some interesting stuff that comes out, but it's a bit like going into like an amphitheatre, I would say, and I find it interesting in that way.
They say some of your taxpayer or however that wealth is generated inside of the country does go to pay some of the royal family. They get some, like, just because of your hereditary attachment, you get some income.
Yes, and also, I mean, a lot of people that are pro-monarchy say that a lot of people come to the UK because of the royal family, and so
that makes sense.
So the country makes money out of that. So why shouldn't we pay for them? Don't forget they've got their own wealth. And
a lot of it.
Yeah, and a lot, and questionable how they got a lot of their wealth. And so we get back, full circle: Commonwealth, British Empire, British rule, imperialism, and the British Museum. There you go.
I want to go to the British Museum with you.
Oh, it'd be great.
No, when you go, I want you to take like a crew from the hood. Let's all go, so you can see the black folks get all give me my stuff back.
But what's interesting as well is that's another topic of conversation that's coming as well. Is lots of countries saying they want their stuff back. And so some items have been sent back to Nigeria, and the Elgin marbles or Pantheon marbles, that's been a point of contention, and they're asking for that. At some point, I think the British are going to just have to say, you know what, hands up, our time is up. We need to pay reparations, and understand that we have benefited from cruelty and crimes that we have committed over the past, and be very clear about that. Did you see the Colston statue? Do you remember that? That was a statue that was pulled down in Bristol and dragged through the streets and thrown into the river.
Wow.
And that was a statue of a slaver, Colston, and then the people that did it, they went to they were arrested, and they went into and there was a legal situation for them, and they actually got off. They were found not guilty.
Wow.
Even though, obviously there's footage of them doing that, but what it was, the point of law was that statue was offensive. It was publicly offensive, so they had every right and reason to pull it down.
That's taking place, of course, here in the U.S. as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, folks are reclaiming or rewriting, or recentering history. And with that being said, you do a lot around PR. You're still, your shape. But tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and how folks can get in touch with you or support your business, because you have a PR firm.
Yes, I'm Lamb PR, and I would say what I do is give voice to the voiceless. It sounds like really quite trite, but I think I've got quite a big voice, and it's very it's surplus to requirements, so I might as well lend it to organisations that I care a lot about. And so currently, Warren Village is one of my clients, and they give transitional housing.
Oh, we love Warren Village.
Yeah, there you go. They're just recently one of my clients. Village Exchange Centre that are based in Aurora for immigrants and refugees. You can see there's a theme that runs through my life. And also working for the BBC, I always worked for ethnic communities, and that's what I'd say, that is communications, and that is what I do. Also, Gosh, what was it? Black Pride Denver is another one of my clients I work with. Tracy Williams of Trade Winds as well. We work together, helping them as well. And so they've got an event that's happening on the Black Fantasy Ball that's happening on the 1st of October. And so I also recently, I've just been elected as a board member on Denver Film.
Okay.
And so that's something else I do. And they bring me on because of my PR skills and also the fact that I am passionate about reaching out to underserved communities and getting their voices heard, and so that they're able to represent. And I feel as if because if I'm at the table, say I'm bringing these issues to the table.
Is bloody a bad word? Oh, bloody. Like if I said I'm bloody upset.
Yeah.
Like bloody, is that bad? Is that bloody? Is that a bad word?
Yeah, you don't say that.
You don't say that.
I wouldn't say that's swearing.
Okay, that's swearing.
It's a bit. It's not like so much the F word, but it's kind of close to that. just so as you know. As we continue, we're really reflecting on and thinking of the life of Queen Elizabeth. What do you think her legacy is? Oh gosh, this is a hard one. Her legacy. I think her legacy, when I think of her, I think of someone who is so duty bound, who had a job for life and took it so seriously. And when you feel that you are someone that truly believes in what you're doing. She truly believed that she was the queen of the people. She wanted to meet people. She wanted to do what her role gave her. She was the Queen of England, and that meant something to her, and she believed in it. And for me, when I think of that as a legacy, yes, a lot of people could think about that in how they approach their lives and how they decide what they're going to do, and having that passion. But for me, I have to say her legacy is the Commonwealth. And the legacy of how that is going to change. I have a real feeling like Jamaica there, as I said, they're looking to potentially not have her as the head of state. And so it will be that will be a topic of conversation that has not been had for very long that we'll start having. Wow.
Amazing conversation. I think that it's powerful when we learn more about other places and other people and how they interact in the intersections, because it gives you a clearer picture of the whole. You know what I mean? Everything is so interconnected, and you and I sitting here speaking English speaks volumes as well.
And have you ever done Ancestry.com? Do you know where your forefathers are from?
No. Okay, Sylvia, here's what I want to do, and you can help me. There's Ancestry.com, and then we could do BrotherJeff.com. And I want everyone, I don't care, you don't have to do a swab or anything, just send me a note and I'll open up the envelope like this and I'll send back to where you're from, and it's going to say Africa.
Just like that.
It's Africa. It's like, I don't care, the whitest, the white person, I don't care, whoever they send it, they're like, Dad, I'm from Africa.
No, I definitely, I did Ancestry.com, and it was just really interesting to see, and it said 50% of me is Ghana.
Of course. And you're like, I knew that.
And there's something very reassuring about that, because my mom, she's actually mixed race from Barbados, and that is much more of a checkered past as far as her ancestors are concerned, because her mother was a black woman, but part of it, I saw Nigeria, saw Cameroon, so lots of different countries that her mother is from. So that was much more, I say, pixelated, fragmented.
Yes.
in my ancestry.
Go over this one more time, because Katie asked the same question we opened with. What is the Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth is 54 countries that were previously colonized as part of the British Empire. And once they got their independence, but no longer were under British rule, they decided to form a club of all of them that had shared experiences. So they may be joined together about economy, and they meet together. And you have also the Commonwealth Games, which is all the countries of the Commonwealth will have, like the Olympics, but it's just the Commonwealth. You will have that. And so you'll have lots of different countries, and even Barbados is still part of the Commonwealth. Will it actually fragment and and break apart? I'm not too sure. I think there's a brotherhood. I think if they themselves, I've never been to a Commonwealth meeting, so exactly what they discuss there, but I'm sure they must feel quite conflicted as well, you know.
Are you a big fan of Manchester United?
I'm not a football fan. My son, who's about 26, 27 this year, he supports Man U.
Man U.
So that's his. But I'm not a football fan.
Wow.
If I had to put, but I would, if anything, I should support Crystal Palace because the school I went to had like a fence between our school and the football training ground, which they used to have a hole in it, and we used to go down through and go and watch them practice.
What is it, before we go, what are some common misconceptions or things you want individuals to know about not only what's going on or, the UK in general, but common misconceptions or just things that you believe individuals should know?
I think, well, there's many things, but what I want people to know is that there is a different experience of African Americans and Black British people. There's things that join us together, but just understanding that we are all part of a huge African diaspora, but understanding the nuances of that. And I think that will educate Black people in knowing about who we are as a whole global nation.
I think also this conversation about the royal family and this hereditary, lineage, it's different today. However, in times past, it was very real. Like that was the form of government. There were subjects, you know what I mean? There was rulership. There was all of this different thing. And it was based on, these ruling families and classes and societies. And it was very real. And the ramifications of that still continue. There's still a ripple effect.
Yeah, I definitely. I think I've just remembered actually one thing that was drawn to my attention. The University of London have on their website, they did extensive research, and you can go through different places in London, different addresses, and you can see where people own slaves. And there'll be the names and addresses of where the people own slaves. I can also look up my mum's maiden name, which is Greenwich, and then I can see all the different Greenwiches, and that was a slave owner's name. Actually, in my mum's case, it wasn't because her father was white. But if you can look up different names that Black people, their British names they've got, and you can see exactly where the different plantations were across the Caribbean, where your family were from. And I think that is, knowledge is power, and you can see that, and you can see. So if people think, oh well, people complain, it wasn't us, it was those people. We haven't enslaved you, but I think you have to really understand that the fact that your family back in the day owned slaves and you had generational wealth that you are benefiting from today is important that you understand that.
What? Let's talk healthcare. When you're part of the UK, that system, can you just go get healthcare, or is it like here where it's like you might?
I love the NHS, the National Health Service. I think it is one of the greatest things of the UK. It is free at the point of delivery. So I will go to a doctor's. They're not asking me for my insurance card, not asking me for anything. I will just go to the doctors, any surgery, anything. I'm not feeling well.
You can go in there.
You go in there, that's fine. They're not asking you for anything. You can go, I'm a friend of mine. Her name's Liz. I'm hoping that her daughter's actually watching because she's my goddaughter. Her mother had a massive stroke, and she had like a 8-hour operation, and she went straight there. She went into top London hospital. She was operated on by a surgeon that would operate on the Queen, on any big figures, and she had the same care. She's not coming out with a bill. She's not coming out with saying she owes £1,000 or thousands or whatever. That's it. She will go and have she had care after that, and she's not paying for any of that because we pay through it for our taxes.
Imagine that. Now, remember, we're having all these wranglings around healthcare and all this stuff here in the U.S. and who can do what and what can't be done. You've just given an example of a total different delivery system.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. So it was born out after the war, where there was about equality, and this is where the socialism comes in as far as the UK is concerned, that people, sometimes there's talk that about bringing in an insurance system, and any political party that will ever call for that, they are never going to be elected. People hold the NHS, National Health Service, in such high esteem. And so, times I've been to the hospital, I've had 2 children, I just go in, have all the prenatal care, have the aftercare, they come to your house, whatever. I'm not showing anybody anything. That's that.
Wow. Powerful. Speaking of small business, don't forget about Chubby Curls, educating the natural community one scalp at a time. You've got those little skinny curls, make them chubby, chubbycurls.com. Don't forget the Queen is dead, and I'm not talking about Aretha Franklin. I'm not talking about Queen Latifah. I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth.
And long live the king.
Long live the king. And long live the king. Well, he's a little older. Can we say long live the king as long as he can?
No, I think he said that as long as the years will allow him, and then his son will come.
Long live the king as long as the years will allow him.
Yes, definitely.
There's the one speech where I think Queen Elizabeth said, I will, whether I live a long life or a short life, I shall always serve. Like, she's 25. She's dropping, just boom.
Actually, you know what? If you say something about her, she said and she meant what she said, and she lived it. You have to respect somebody for that. And she lived it in that way. I've got a lot of respect for her as an individual. As I say, I can divorce the person from the figurehead. And so I think I can speak on both sides, because I have respect for somebody that has dedicated their life to that cause.
I like the fact that she lived long enough to see she got some black grandkids.
That's too funny, isn't it? Oh, I love me some Meghan.
And I know she loved them kids just as much as she loved all the rest of them.
Upset the apple cart. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Go, Meghan.
Meghan, Meghan, you got beyond the fence. Shout out to you. That means anyone can make it anywhere, anyhow. It's all possible. You can even be a part of the royal family.
But wow. Yes, obviously Meghan, good luck to her. Again, she is the hate figure. People were surprised that, people won't be shouting out to her. And I think there's a certain level of respect anyway out there. But, the amount of people that they can talk about how they just hate her. And I'm just thinking, wow, everything in your life, this is what you want to use your negative energy for, really? That's that.
Well, when you come back, I know you'll be keeping your eye on all this stuff, but would you update us from a knowledgeable standpoint? Because we be making stuff up over here a lot of times because we just don't know.
Okay. Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
Let us know, because I think some of the things and information that I receive, it's like I don't know, but I know who to ask. I do remember seeing, I believe they were blacks from Paris. They was tearing it up over there.
They're really cool. I like them. I mean, one thing, it's again Paris. I love Paris, and you see black people that are there. They live in the suburbs, and that's why I say they don't have as much. Not like Brixton. Brixton, definitely you can feel that blackness there, and you've got black people who are members of Parliament, but that's another story.
Really?
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
I got to go back and look a little closer.
Yeah, the Conservative Party. So, like the Chancellor of Exchequer at the moment, he's a black man. You've got the Home Secretary, that is an Asian lady. And so they're saying at the moment, the cabinet has got the most diverse cabinet. I have, that's another story because, maybe how things look on the outside, maybe is not as how things really are on the inside. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, what are they doing to forward the agenda of equity and equality?
Wow.
But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so no. French, have you ever heard French rap?
Oh, yes.
Oh, isn't it great?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whenever we get together, we're always just elevating the game. I'm talking about whether it doesn't matter. It's all beautiful. And it's great having you. Thank you for bringing us up to date. I'm certainly more knowledgeable about what's happening on that side of the pond, particularly how the structure is and the different, all of that. I'm very fascinated. I'm very interested. I'm still wrestling with how did they get everything? And a lot of folks say, well, technology, treachery, a lot like I don't know. They know something.
Will we ever know? I don't know. But I mean, I'm happy to come back and talk about, a particular because it's very wide ranging. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about the whole of life, talking about economics, we're talking about, social services and all that kind of stuff, and how society runs in the UK. And there are nuances, things are different, but yes.
Well, one thing we do know is that they got their healthcare system on hit.
I think so.
That's the way to do it.
And we're very proud of it.
It's a human right.
Yeah, it is definitely a human right. It's not a privilege. And whether the poorest person or the richest person, you are going to get the same level of healthcare.
Well, I'll tell you, Sylvia Lamb, that we cover everything. Do you want to shout out anybody, your friends, your crew, your peak? Because the final words are yours.
Shout out to everybody that is listening to your show, everybody that has an interest in the African diaspora, and to my family back in the UK, to my goddaughter Justina, to my best friend Liz, to my best friend Latina, who's a singer, to my son Joshua, who is an Oxford graduate, by the way.
Oh, wait, yes. Hold on, your son's an Oxford graduate?
Damn right.
Oxford?
Yes.
No, you say that's like me, folks like Brother Jeff in Harvard. You talking about Oxford?
Yes, definitely.
And you just can't get a degree from Oxford tiptoeing and not doing your work.
No, he was definitely a hard worker. And also just the fact that he's a young black boy. There's not many of them that get into Oxford and Cambridge. And so I have a lot of respect for him. But that's something I would say I get from my father, who's a Ghanaian, who, African education is such a big deal, and I passed that down to my son.
Well, good job.
Yeah.
And good job. With that being said, we appreciate you. Okay, so as long live the king, as long as he can.
Long live the king, and yes, and condolences to Her Majesty, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, the end of an era.
And hopefully we will be able to see you at the coronation covering it.
I hope so. Yes, I'll go think. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but I imagine it's going to be next year sometime.
But it might not be too late to get over there. When will the funeral take place? Isn't it Monday?
It's next Monday. 11. It's 4:00 in the morning, Denver time. 11:00 in the morning, UK time. And so we're just, as I say, as a group, the British Girls Group, we're deciding exactly what we're going to do. To mark that, but that's another story.
Well, let us know. I stopped over in the UK in London once, just on a layover on my way to South Africa, and that's when I learned that pound was strong back then. That hamburger I brought with US dollars was like $67. I was like, man, here's my $5. They're like, you better put 10 more with that. Hamburger.
You have to, as someone, as Brother Jeff, who is all about understanding of history and about, as I say again, the African diaspora. You have to go to London. Trust me.
Got to do it.
Yes.
And when you go, make sure you look this way as opposed to that way, or you're going to get hit by a car. That stuff goes back. Like, it's a whole bunch of different things. You get to drive on the other side. It's like, takes a little getting used to.
Yeah, but it's just
the best.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. But no, we're going to go together at some point. You and I and your crew, you got to get a little crew together and say, let's go do a walkabout.
I would like to do a black tour of London.
You could do that.
Yeah, it'll be real.
And you would take us to the British libraries and the museums and all those different things. I would just love to pick up some of them old books where it's like, this is when we really got them.
Yeah, without a doubt, you'd have a brilliant time. I definitely know how to show people a good time, without a doubt.
Well, thank you, Sylvia Lamb. It's appreciative, and condolences to your country and countrymen and women and all of that. And we'll keep our eye on it. I learned so much. I appreciate it. The free thinkers out there love you. Well, of course we do. And so many thank yous and shout outs to you. Thank you for all that you bring from there to here and back, because you're just a star.
Oh, bless you. I love raising awareness. Thank you.
Star. All right, you all. If you go down swinging. You
love
just
you,
might
Denver.
score
Love you, Denver.
a knockout. Rumble, young man, women, and community. Rumble.